Hello, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us on this ninth edition of Boundaries, a virtual performance series co-curated by CSPS and Dead Coast Presents. My name is Taylor Bergen. I am the director at CSPS. Thank you again for tuning in. We are now moving Boundaries to an every other week presentation, partially because of the nice weather, and partially because we really want to build excitement for the show. So please join us every other week. If you've missed any of the 8 other shows, please visit our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com and search CSPS, or you can go back through our Facebook, or you can visit our website. We just redesigned our brand new website, cspshall.org. We're really excited for tonight. We do have a slight programming note. Natalie Brown will be at the next Boundaries. Unfortunately, she's feeling a little bit under the weather, so we hope Natalie feels better soon, but we're really excited about the 2 artists we have coming up this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Nalani Proctor to the virtual stage. Yeah, sorry, no applause right there, but yeah, you're right. You're right. There we go. But we're gonna let you take it away and kick us off this week. So thank you so much for playing, and we'll let you take it away.
Thanks for having me. Little bird, don't fly. Take your wing on another night. All the clouds tell tales about you, and the stars pair off into. Take your wing in the morning light. Gather all but your twigs and twine, and the moment you fly true will be on the morning dew. Then go with all of your heart to the places of starting anew, start anew. Go take on all of the words, the invention of heaven and hell can hold you. Little bird, don't fly. Take your wing, but don't say goodbye. I will miss your beautiful tunes as you sang the morning blue. Then go with all of your heart to the places of starting anew, start anew. Go take on all of the words, the invention of heaven and hell can hold you. And the whisper of love will awake your soul again. It will take your soul to the end. Little bird, don't fly. Little bird, don't go with all of your heart to the places of starting anew, start anew. Go take on all of the words, the invention of heaven and hell can hold you. Go with all of your heart to the places of starting anew, start anew. Go take on all of the words, little bird, don't fly. Well, thanks. Thanks for joining us. Again, my name's Nalani Proctor, and that song was called Little Bird. It's the first track on my last album that I put out in 2018. Nothing is what the album was called. And, you know, I've kind of been slowly moving more towards a nature theme in most of my music. So I'm going to be doing a lot of nature themed songs, including this next song is a newer one for me, a little softer than that one. And it's called The Woods. I reach out to grasp it, the fruit on the tree, how it hangs delicately, as if just for me. But I know that the berries will poison me, but I dream of the fragrance as I gnash my teeth, dripping red and purple. The juice keeps me fed in the woods. Ooh. I rub my face gently upon the green grass. Feel the chlorophyll fill me in a temperatured bath. But I know that the grass will wither and pass. But I love how the autumn colors wrap me in swaddling clothes of the night. Dreams are coming to the woods. Ooh. To the woods. Ooh. Stretching out my phalanges, the wind catches fire, lifting me towards Nalani, drifting head over heel as the birds sing so sweetly. The morning lights ring and their feathers is offering to bring back the dead and the little bud flowers under the suit of the vernal in the woods. Ooh. In the woods. Ooh. It's taking me to the woods. Ooh, it's taking me. Thanks. You see me in the morning, pulling at the seams of the nightmares, telling stories, brushing them beneath, crying high down winter's finest, visiting my bones tonight, aching soul and bated breath, hoping to catch a quiver lip. I see you in the morning, reaching for the stream of redemption by the glory that other people see, crying, no, don't look at me, the relics pushing through the cracks, asking more, the energy is harder, closer to the back of every little morning, every little warning, every little morning, every little warning. I know I shouldn't put much stock in my astrology birth chart, but I can't wait to find out why I am the way I am. I am not okay. I will be okay. As if the sun and moon could change my ways, and I would appear inside, could be so happy living free under starlight. I'll be. I'm not okay. I will be okay. 20 years of messed up fears, you think I'd learn by now to let it out, not push it down, but then I know my crowning achievements in disaster scene. So now I know my own Leo, Cancer, Capricorn thorns are sticking to my eyes and heart, and magic to where I was. I'm not okay. I will be okay. I'm not okay. I will be okay. Thanks. That song, well, is two songs, a short song and a long song. The first one was Every Little Morning, just kind of about waking up, looking at your phone in the morning, trying to remember or not remember the dreams you had. And then the second song was Leo Cusp Cancer, which is kind of my dive into astrology. I have books about it. I don't Still have no idea. But yeah, I know I know what I've got going on anyway. I'm gonna get into another newer song. Oh, those last two were also on my last album, but this is another newer tune for me. It's called "The Valley," and based on Stardew, the video game Stardew Valley. I really got into that last summer. About the same time, I started reading a book called "A Woman Who Ran with the Wolves," which is like fairy tales about the wild woman archetype. And so I had a lot of learning. Did Stardew Valley, learning how to farm, although it's way easier on a video game. And then, yeah, learning about the wild woman archetype. And at the same time, the song kind of originated or started while I was visiting some family in Hawaii, and there was some brush fires that happened, and at one point, the day we were supposed to come back to Iowa, it had actually cut off the highway that connected us on one side of the island to the other side of the island where the airport was. So it was quite an exciting and a little scary time because it was, wild brush fires. So anyway, long story short, this song is called "The Valley." A simple task to leave behind, a life we've made, the future holds the hope to conquer the land before your heart. The wild woman belongs to you. The wild woman is within you. With one brush fire, the wires cut. The land now tried to start anew. And out of ash comes rushing through. The wild woman belongs to you. The wild woman is within you. Freely falling, smile-pasted white, as hard as concrete, angel smile, embracing for the impact, hoping downy feathers will break the fall, break the fall. The rugged land yields its fruit upon the eve of the festival root. His twinkling lights bringing you into the fray, his nightly dreams of home simmer and sway. The wild woman belongs to freely falling, smile-pasted white, as hard as concrete, angels fly, embracing for the impact, hoping downy feathers will break the fall, break the fall. But the earth is hard with her lava jutting into ribbons, and skies only glow brighter as you crumple up your paper mache wings. You thought were stone, you thought were stone, freely falling, smile-pasted white, as hard as concrete, angels fly, embracing for the impact, hoping downy feathers will break the fall, break the fall. Ooh, back you go to land anew, with another idea of what's happening to you. But you keep pressing forward, Himua. The wild woman belongs to you. Ooh, the wild woman is within you. Ooh, thanks. I just have a couple more for you. And yesterday, thank you again to CSPS and Dead Coast for having me on this this live stream. I've been really distracted, as I'm sure a lot of people have, with just COVID in general and quarantining. And so, I hang out in my office a lot, but also, trying to uplift our Black friends and, trying to be there and uplift their voices. And so I do have, social media. You find me on pretty much anything except for TikTok. I think I'm over the age limit for that, but Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just search Nalani Proctor or Nalani Proctor Band or Nalani Proctor Music. Any of those should probably bring me up. And also YouTube. And I have Venmo and PayPal on the little banner there. But anything that I get today is going to go to the Des Moines chapter of Black Lives Matter, because I feel like they're really like making consistent changes, and there's an artist there that I absolutely love, Snell, and my other band, Finally Smashed, I got to open for her and Scotty P last year, and it was a wonderful show. And she's a full-time organizer, and so I want to help them as much as I can financially. But also, she pointed out this awesome shirt artist, Rachel Reloaded, who's out of Ames, and her website is rachelreloaded.com. That's a cool thing there. And then so I try to post as much as I can on social media as best as I can, and you can find me there. And thanks so much for tuning in on this Wednesday evening. Also, shout out to the folks at the march in Norwalk. I know they can't hear me, but I really appreciate what they're doing since I can't be out there. So and thank you for listening. So these last two songs I'm going to play for you, I think I'll just play them back to back. The first one is a new song. Well, they're both new for me. The first one's called The Master the Thin, and it's kind of about the life and death of a flower, and how that coincides with our humanity and how we grow up. And the second song, or the last song that I will end with, is one of my newest songs written during this quarantine time, called Green is the Grass, and it's kind of about love, but with nature themes and colors and things like that. So again, my name's Nalani Proctor. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy these last two songs. Trembling in the wind, the seed is floating towards the master the thin. The crooked pedestal as it's hoping for grace. The cackle, the grackle sings its disappointment. And a folded delays, leaving a tuft of its polymer glaze, reaching for once to capacity's edge, hoping for grace of the interface. You arrive, oh my, you arrive, hold my hand, doubling in its size. The petals reveal starry dew covered eyes. I'm blinking until I slowly lower my gaze in show of respect for this beautiful space. You arrive, hold my, you arrive, hold my hand. It's covered cloudy, listening to the sounds of what black Miyazaki say. Fostering the disheart and averaging the day, singing sugar and spice, 'cause we'll never be nice. AF. You arrive, hold my, you arrive, hold my hand, you arrive, hold my, you arrive, hold my hand. Green is the grass that grows round your heart as the winter snow holds tight. Peach, glowing ebb and flow, it warms. I see undertow, waters flow, and I'm home. Even in the winter, I'm hunting the wind and foraging the spring light. I'm fooled by the summer breeze. Blue, streaking lines of gray, mixing colors on a palette tray. Brush strokes anxiously away. The notes don't hesitate. Indigo, don't go and hide your face. You've brought me a saving grace. The night hugs me close, so tight I fall asleep. Even in the winter, I'm hunting the wind and foraging the spring light. I'm fooled by the summer breeze. Green is the grass that grows. Thanks again.
Thank you, Nalani. It was great.
Really appreciate it.
Yep. All right. So you see Nalani's social media links running down here, Venmo, PayPal. Please, if you like what you hear throughout the set, please support these artists. Nalani is donating the funds she receives this evening to the Des Moines Black Lives Matter. And we feel very passionate about that cause at CSPS. So please, if you loved what you heard this evening, feel free to donate. So yeah, we're gonna move on to our next performer right now. So I'm gonna bring Jason to the screen. Hey, Jason.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So we're gonna do something we haven't done on Boundaries before. We're gonna share Jason's screen because what Jason does is really unique, and there's a visual component to it. So we're gonna try this out. We had a longer sound check, and I think we worked out some of the kinks, so we're good there. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Jason do his thing. Okay, so I'm gonna add that and remove myself and take it away, Jason.
Great, thank you. If questions come up and so I can't see the StreamYard screen anymore because of the screen share. So if questions come up in between the sets, if you can read them to me, that way I'll be able to get them. And just pipe in if the volume's too low or anything. It's a very complicated setup. I will be doing 3 different songs with an EEG to music system that I developed. And so I'm using a Muse EEG, which is this headband. And I hacked into it and created my own app that can pull the data from the EEG. And what an EEG is it's a device that reads the electrical activity of the brain. So I'll be wearing it across my brain. It'll be picking up electricity from the behind my ears, so the sides of my skull, and my forehead. And there'll be a few different components. So that EEG data will be converted into MIDI, which will create music. MIDI is electronic music, almost like a sheet music. It's a way that drum machines can talk to synthesizers, can talk to sequencers. And so I can point this system towards any type of device, any different type of synthesizer. And what we'll hear tonight is I'll be pointing it towards various different synthesizer kits. I'll be using Ableton for some of the sounds, and then I'll also be using an electron digitone for some of the sounds. So the MIDI will be going to both. I'm going to show you the digitone in just a second. It's a cool little synthesizer from Electron. And then what we'll see visually and what you see on the screen right now, which is no EEG output, is I developed a visualizer. And so you'll be seeing my brain waves live. And there are 5 different ones. There's delta, which is red, theta, which is purple on the screen. Alpha is that blue. Beta is that orange. And gamma, which is on the far right, is yellow. And the other thing is the background will be a live color mixing. So what I'm able to do with this recent build, what I've been working on during the pandemic, is converting thought into RGB, red, green, blue screen displays. And so I'll be essentially color mixing live with my brain while I'm composing music too. So that's a step towards a synesthetic experience that I want with this project, where more and more of the entire project gets powered by the electricity in my body. So I will start with the first track, and if you have any questions, just type them into the chat. And in between songs, I'm happy to answer questions. I know it's kind of a sci-fi system, so I'll get started. Okay, I want to start with that intro track, almost as a test as well. Um, how was the levels on that? There's one thing I was getting a little bit of feedback, so I was writing the mic input low. Increase volume. I'm going to try changing one setting to help reduce feedback. Can you still hear me? Waiting for a chat from Taylor. And I'll jump over to the live comments. Great. Okay. Great. Um, so I switched on a feedback control. So I will move to the second track. And again, if you have questions about the system, feel free to ask. And switch over to Ableton. And so I'm using some synthesizers inside of Ableton, some of their wavetable synthesizers, and also feeding in two tracks from the Digitone, the Electron Digitone. So it'll take about 20 seconds to load the next kit. And this is the first time I'm presenting, to my computer in my studio. Actually, I was going through old footage of right before the pandemic. So I was editing footage today from like Winnipeg and Los Angeles and Phoenix, 2 shows in LA. So it's interesting to shift over to this where everything is streaming through the internet. And one of the next steps with this system, particularly with the pandemic, is to be able to have someone remotely with one of these be able to send their brainwave activity through the internet into my studio and control the synthesizers in my studio remotely. So that's something I'm currently working on and excited about. I'm going to see if that is loaded. Okay, so I'm going to remic my studio monitor, and this is the second track.
Jason, we've got a couple questions I'm going to throw up on the screen for you so you can answer them. So um, here's the first one. You should be able to see it at the bottom. Can you see that?
Are these the same waves in the Tibetan throat singers?
If you could talk a little louder into the microphone, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
How's that?
That's a lot better. Yeah.
Are these the same waves that Tibetan throat singers evoke with their voices? So a wave that would come from a vocal would be a sound wave, which is a compression wave. It's a wave moving through air. And the waves that I'm using are electromagnetic waves coming from my brain, from the electricity in my brain. And those waves are being converted into sound, into compression waves coming out of so it's the electrical activity in my brain is controlling a machine, and that machine, the synthesizer, is what's producing the sound wave. Did that answer the question?
I think so. It's hard to tell in the online thing. We have one more question.
Sure.
I'm going to show it on the bottom of the screen.
What do the different colors mean? So what I did was I excuse me, I took different colors and mapped them to different emotional and energetic states inside of my brain. So the more red or pink it is, it's delta, and delta is kind of a stress response. When the colors become more blue, that's me diving more into a meditative state or a relaxed state. So I chose blue as a soothing color. So each of the background colors reflects the color of the waves. And red, excuse me, red is delta. Theta is purple, and it's in between blue and red. And I chose purple because theta waves often they mirror what delta waves are doing. Delta waves are very dynamic with movement or stress, or someone said my name, I would turn and my delta wave would spike up. And so theta waves they don't peak and valley as much as delta waves, but they mirror them often. And theta is a state that it's it's a little bit of a daydream type of wave. If you're driving on the highway and you like lose track of the last 10 minutes, that could be you're in a theta state. I did a hypnosis in Berlin in November, past life regression, highly recommended. And my theta waves were really deep as I was going into that hypnosis. Um, then next up is alpha, which is that relaxed state. And then beta, the line I'm choosing is orange, but I chose the inverse, the complementary color for the background. And gamma is yellow, and I chose complementary purple for the background. Certain colors as they fade in and out on a digital screen. So when a digital screen is off, it's black. And um, certain colors don't look as good when they fade to black, such as oranges and yellows. So I chose the complementary color of those because it looks better fading in and out on a black screen. And I wanted the whole color palette to reflect um, a feeling of electricity and thought and neurology. So I gravitated towards reds, purples, and blues, and then mapped, those 5 waves to different parts of the spectrum of the range between essentially a pure red and a pure blue, and all the purples and pinks in between. Um, so that's what the colors mean.
Cool. So you have one more song that you're gonna do.
I'll load that up.
And once again, audience, if you have questions for Jason throughout this, you can submit them on the chat, and then Jason and I will talk about them after the song and go through them. So I'm going to let you kind of go ahead on this with your final one. And I'm sharing the screen so you can put that on there. This is, yeah.
Do you get the video feedback?
No. We're good. We're really good. Yep, we're all good. Yep, I added it back on. You're all good. So
Okay. Ableton is still loading the next song. It'll be probably 10 seconds.
totally fine. Yeah. So Jason has done this live at CSPS and live really all around the world. So I think this is probably a little new experience with the the social distancing and all this, but
It is.
yeah. So yeah, once again, audience, if you have a question for Jason after you've done this is it's a visual representation of your brain waves set to music, so it's not super straightforward. And I know when you performed this at CSPS, I think in October, we had a lot of really great questions from the audience and a lot of feedback from there, so really important part of what you do, because this is so unique. So yeah. All right, I'm going to let you do your last song. And once again, audience, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them up in the chat.
Great. Okay.
So we didn't have any more questions, but I didn't know if you wanted to expand on any of um, sort of what you were doing in the last song, and yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the things that happens pretty consistently is with each song, I go deeper and deeper. So the third song, I felt the most control of the sounds, and uh, people often ask, like, how do you play a synthesizer remote control with your brain? And essentially, what starts happening is I kind of imagine electrical patterns in my forebrain, and I can see them in my mind's eye, and I manipulate those waves, and then instantly hear the synthesizer respond. And the more that it responds to those waves, the more I can manipulate them and have more control over the sound. And what ends up happening is that process ends up being um, a very intense, almost like a meditative conversation, with the music. So, it'd be similar to playing guitar and getting really deep into, I guess, a solo on a guitar jam, but it's even more internal because it's coming directly from my brain. There's no instrument between my brain and the synthesizer. It's just this direct control, remote control. It's almost like a telekinesis or telepathy with music machines. I do see Danielle.
Yep.
How did
Yeah.
you get started doing this? Um, the project before this was I was working with motion sensors, and so a lot of the technology was similar. And the motion sensor project was with these wristbands, MYO wristbands, and I would work with a dancer and put a couple of motion sensors, usually one on the wrist and one on the ankle. And as the dancer moved, their motion data was being transmitted via Bluetooth to my computer, and then my computer was processing that dance motion data and triggering sounds. And so the dancer themselves was composing and then dancing to the music that they were composing in real time. And that's something I performed at CSPS November of 2018. And then I had this dream in December of 2018 about making music directly from the biology of the body. So in the dream, it was actually making music from DNA sequences. So I started working on that. I looked up DNA sequences and started mapping music to them. And about 6 weeks later, I was just on Instagram scrolling through, and I saw an ad for this headband, this EEG headband. And I realized, if that EEG headband is Bluetooth, just like the motion sensors that I was using in the dance project, I wonder if instead of using motion data, I could use thought to control music. And
Hmm.
so I bought the EEG, and I got it a couple days later. Uh, a lot of the code was already there, the Bluetooth communication framework, because of the motion sensor project. I had a MIDI framework, so the ability to convert data into MIDI so I could talk to a synthesizer because of the motion sensor project. So I had all of this code already good to go. And I built a prototype where I was watching my delta wave. And the first prototype was, if I get my delta wave to drop, can it play a note on the keyboard? And so I had my first version of the app. I had it plugged into the synthesizer that's on the desk here. And if it worked, I would see a little light up on my synthesizer, meaning note on via MIDI. Um, and so I put on the EG, and I was like, and I saw this light go on, and it was a complete eureka moment. I just realized, if I can play a note with my brain, if I can play a note on a keyboard with my brain, I can expand on that and eventually do full compositions, a full symphony. It's this, so once that connection was made, that with a thought, I can play a key on a keyboard, then you've got what you heard today. So
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not offending you when I say this, but like your thought process, literally, of your music seems like this extension of John Cage's sort of dabbling into technology, and then Lori Lane post that with, she was very much what you were describing with that dancer, that body movement suit sort of musical offerings. It's really interesting to hear that that's how the idea came up, because immediately I in my brain I was like, yeah, I remember all the videos of Lori Lane just creating the drum beats with her suit that she created. So that's uh that's awesome. I mean, I guess that kind of dovetails into a question I have for you. Were there like influences? I know you've traveled around and interfaced with a lot of different artists on this. Were there influences to get you down this technological path other than maybe some of what I described in what I immediately thought of?
so the history of it I actually looked into afterwards. I wrote a paper for a firm in New York about the history of experimental music, and it was after the fact, after I had started the EEG work, that I found in that same group Alvin Lucier, and
Hmm.
67 he used an EEG, and he had his alpha waves rumble drums. So he was sitting in this chair, almost looked like a scene off Twin Peaks. It was like the second floor, and he's in this weird like um, throne, and he's got these wood box next to him with EGs on his head, and you would hear this kind of rumbling and popping. Um, I would say the biggest influences on this, because I come from a techno background, which is just really, I mean, the thing about doing a techno set is I hit play and I turn knobs, and as long as I'm not so nervous that I can't turn a knob, the music's going to be the same no matter what I feel. So I could be doing a set and be super excited. I could be bored. I could be tired because it's 3 a.m. I could be super nervous because a certain machine isn't working, and I'm the only one who knows it. But I'm terrified because everything's not working, and the audience won't know because it's the same music coming out. And so part of the impulse behind this was to make music that reflected how I actually felt in the moment. So at the beginning of that last song, um, I don't know if you noticed the values, but all the numbers were like in the 90s on the screen. And so it wasn't, I had to breathe and calm down for the lines to start descending. And then you could see the brainwaves again on the screen, but they were maxed out. They were actually above the maximum. And that's what I want. If I'm nervous or really excited, I want that conveyed, in the music. So in terms of actual people who pushed me to get past the normal techno paradigm was author and Punisher, and he does this really aggressive, uh, intense music. And I played a set with him in New York, and I wish I went before him. For some reason, the organizer had me go after him. And I remember like watching his set, being so floored by how impressive it was, and turning to the promoter, I was like, "Would you play after him?" He's like, "Nope." I still want you to. And so what he does is he builds his own MIDI hardware. So he doesn't use standard controllers. I believe he has an engineering background. So he had all this literal metal around him. He had this big sliding gear type thing that would trigger the kick and the snare. He had this spinning metal cylinder that affected something. It was converted to a MIDI CC. He had almost like a throttle, like an airplane throttle that would control something else. And so, and he had the strobe light underneath him, and he's got these like crazy masks where he can do all these vocal effects. So he's built his own instruments. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's still playing sounds off of a synthesizer or Ableton, but you totally lose track of that because he's created his own world. And it's this very hellish, mechanical, biomechanical, industrial world. and he's done it amazingly. Like he's built his own world. His show is his show. It's unlike anything else. And it was embarrassing to like go on stage after him with a little like plastic MIDI controller playing off of, you know, my laptop. I was like, this isn't man enough to like follow this. I mean, he was so impressive. So that really pushed me, like that experience of playing after him and really being mortified for my entire 25-minute set of like, is this all I've got? Like, is this it? Like, I'm just playing Tractor. I'm just mixing songs. Yes, they're my songs, but there was nothing innovative about my performance. And then the one other group I want to talk about is 404.0. They're a Russian duo. I think they are now in Iceland, but I saw them in LA, and what they really focus on is they use Touch Designer. And so what they do is they make music live with modular synthesizers, and that data goes directly into Touch Designer, and the visuals are immediately cued to the sounds. And so there's this synesthetic experience of complete harmony between their visuals, which are kind of stark black and white, and these the sounds are coming off the synthesizer. And then they've moved into exhibit work where they will have full rooms of these like beaming slices of light going through and sync to their music, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's some of the most beautiful music I've seen. So I would cite those two as really seeing them and realizing just mixing techno off a drum machine or off of CDJs just wasn't enough. I needed to do something that was gonna push me and my brain and going further. And so for me, that led to some AI work and an app I made, which then led to the dancers and then led to the EEG.
Awesome.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much again, Jason. We really appreciate it. It's always interesting to hear about the process and see the visual representation of your brain in a musical form. That's really cool. So we appreciate it, and thank you for being a part of this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here.
Yep. So once again, everyone, thank you for joining us. This was our 9th week of Boundaries. If you missed any of this performance, you missed any of the previous weeks, you can visit our Facebook page, either Dead Coast Presents Facebook page or CSPS's Facebook page, or you can go to the YouTube page of CSPS by just going to youtube.com, searching CSPS. If you loved what you heard tonight from Nalani, Proctor, or Jason Snell, please consider supporting them. We really appreciate anything you can give to them. You know, this pandemic has really affected the performing arts industry in a way that is going to be felt for years to come. So any support you can give these artists is really appreciated. Thank you all so much. We will see you again July 1st. We've got a really great set coming up for you on that Boundaries 10.0. So it's our 10th one of that. So we look forward to seeing you then. And until next time, everyone stay happy, healthy, and safe. And thanks for tuning in.